All right, so what I need you to do with this, right, with your sheet is as you're reading this weekend, have your sheet out, and you're going to look at it, right, and you're going to look for, can I answer these questions? You may or may not be able to answer all these questions. You may or may not be able to find a ton of stuff related to each one of these, but it's a good way to start. Does that make sense? All right, so now what I need you to do is I need you to take out your passage that you got from me. All right, when we get a passage, what is the very first thing we do? We get a prompt first, right? So we're going to look at our prompt first. If you notice the prompt on your passage says American Dream. If you'll change it to American Identity. I was hoping we could go to Dream. And then as I worked through it, first period, it didn't work as well. So I changed it to American Identity. So that last word on there changed it from American Dream to American Identity. All right. When we look at when we look at a prompt, what are the things that I told you that we need to look for? Bat it, yes. So, all right, let's bat it. Wait, let me see if I can move this. Oh, yay, here we go. All right, so we look at background, good. So, we're gonna bat. So, where's the background in here? Okay, so 2004. All right, so I'll tell you this. Some of the things that we will read, passages from College Board, will have historical significance. Not all of them, all right? So knowing the historical significance of something, if it is relevant, what it allows you to do is it allows you to talk more about the language and the purpose of the language during that time period or the events of that time period. So today, I would say, 2004, with this article, is there really anything that we need to know about it? Not necessarily, right? Just that it's more modern, and especially the topic that we're talking about, the idea of suburban sprawl, is a more recent problem or issue or topic. All right, what else are we looking at? What else is important in here? Author. Okay, the author. All right, again, if there's anything that we need to know that the College Board finds is super important for us or will change our perspective on reading the passage, they will tell us about the author. For instance, we have a prompt that is about Alfred Green, and it says Alfred Green was a freed slave living in the North. Okay, so that changes your perspective of this is a slave writing this or a freed slave writing this rather than a white man writing it. Totally changes the purpose and the intent, okay? So here, David Brooks, do we know anything? No, we just know that this is from the New York Times. So we know that he is somebody that is established. You don't just get some Joe Schmo publishing articles in the New York Times. Is it relevant to his argument? No. What else? We haven't gotten to the task yet. What else is important in here? Okay, suburban sprawl. All right. So what is suburban? Okay, so yes, it's an example is McKinney. So what is the definition? What is urban? City. Big city. What is suburban? Small city. So Dallas is not suburban. McKinney is a suburb of Dallas. Okay? What does it mean to sprawl? To spread out, yeah, to go, right? So it's spread. So what does suburban sprawl mean? The small cities are doing what? Spreading out. Okay, so you have your small cities and they're starting to move even more. Okay, all right, anything else? The what? We're not going to get there yet. We will. The other thing that I would say in here, so what does significance mean? What else did I hear? Important, what else? Okay. What else? Meaning. Yeah, meaning or purpose. So here's what we're doing. I know it sounds silly. You're like, I know what significance means. Here's what this does. Do you ever feel like within an essay, you start using like the same words over and over again? Yes. All right. So what this is doing is this is creating more words for us to use throughout our passage. What I would say is if the prompt is talking about like for suburban sprawl, I would not find another word or phrase for suburban sprawl. Because if you start changing that word, I don't know what you're talking about in your essay. If you have to say suburban sprawl, suburban sprawl, suburban sprawl over and over again in your essay, that's fine. Okay? But significance, you can look at it in different ways and say that different ways. It doesn't change the meaning of the passage or prompt. Does that make sense to you? Okay. All right, so we've done that. So now what are we going to do? We're going to look for the task. Where's the task? Nope. Analyze. This is a given. I'm never going to say in a well-written poem, right, or in a well-sung song, analyze, right? It's always going to be an essay. So remember you're looking for your marker verbs. So this is your action. Analyze the choices Brooks uses to characterize the American identity. Okay, now we have to look at some stuff in there. What are we looking at? What's important in that task? Characterize, yep. So what does characterize mean? If we characterize a person, what does that mean? What else? What else? Good. Okay. What else in there? So what we did on the American identity work, notice that all those questions and stuff where we started with identity and then we looked at the American identity together, all that work we did, right, would go here. Okay? The other thing I'm going to look at is choices, and we see this quite a bit in our prompts, is the idea of choices. It's changed over the years, so we get just about everything. We get what rhetorical strategies, what choices. So choices is very broad. So choices does suggest rhetorical terms or like rhetorical devices that aren't all the same as lit devices. It talks about organization, like what choices in organizational layout did this author make, right? It can talk about appeals. And we're going to talk about staying away from ethos, logos, pathos, but we're going to talk about appeals. It talks about the patterns of language. All right, so it's all the things. It's all the things. All right? All right, now we know what we're looking for, right? So at the top of our passage, I'm going to switch because mine's on a different page. At the top of our passage, we want to write like what we want to look for, right? So we're going to look at how does suburban sprawl influence American identity. Notice I write fast, especially when we're writing an essay, so we want to write it quick. The reason why I write that at the top of my page is because sometimes when you start reading, especially this is kind of lengthy, when you start reading, you get lost in the passage, right? So if you have that to quickly look up, what am I looking for again? You have it right there, then you can see it. All right, so we've done that. Now what do we need to do? We need to annotate. Before we do that, what do we need to do? Number your paragraphs. We're living in the age is 1. The geography is 2. These new spaces is 3. In these new is 4, and I'm stopping there because that's all I have time for, because there's like 80-something paragraphs. All right? All right, so now we're going to read. I'm going to start reading, and I'm going to show you what I'm annotating. All right? All right. We're living in the age of the Great Dispersal. Americans continue to move from the Northeast and Midwest to the South and West. If you're crying over 20 pages of reading, this is not the class for you. So here I'm writing is happens everywhere, right? Just a note. So now sometimes for me when I write or when I annotate, I go, wow, that's interesting. I'll do that in a minute. Because it's just something that I go, okay, that's really interesting. So when I look back, I go, what did I find interesting? That's gonna be what I write about, right? But the truly historic migration is from the inner suburbs to the outer suburbs, to the suburbs of suburbia. So this is new. From New Hampshire down to Georgia, across Texas to Arizona, and up through California, you now have the booming exurban sprawls that have broken free of the gravitational pull of the cities and now float in a new space far beyond them. For example, the population of the metropolitan Pittsburgh has declined by 8% since 1980, but as people spread out, the amount of developed land in the Pittsburgh area increased by nearly 43%. So notice developed land goes up, but population has declined. So what does that mean? People are moving out of the city, but all of the areas outside of the city are now being built. So that's where people are moving. So this is about people. The geography of work has been turned upside down. Jobs used to be concentrated in downtowns, but the suburbs now account for more rental office space than the cities in most of the major metro areas of the country, except Chicago and New York. In the Bay Area in California, suburban Santa Clara County alone has 5 times as many of the region's larger public companies as San Francisco. 90% of the office space built in America by the end of the 1990s was built in suburbia, much of it in far-flung office parks stretched along the interstates. What that makes me think of is like going down 75, right, where you see all those offices. So this is all about businesses and jobs. So what I'm seeing so far is that the suburban sprawl affects not only like families and people, but it also is now affecting businesses and jobs. So it's not just families moving to the suburbs, it's business. So what I want you to see is that's all I'm looking for. I'm just looking for trends as I read. What you're going to see is as he develops this argument, you're going to see like chunks of ideas. So what I suggest is this. I suggest you take this passage and you find 2, 3, 4 friends and stop packing up now and listen. And then when you get your 2, 3, 4 friends together, read it and talk about it together. The interaction together will take longer than you reading it by yourself. But the interaction that you have with somebody will make you understand this better, okay? I'd say it'll probably take you about 45 minutes to an hour and a half to do it with a group of people, all right? I suggest Panera. I'm partial to Panera. I like their bread bowls with macaroni and cheese. It's a great place. You can sit at your booth. You can order from your booth. They bring it to your booth. You don't have to leave the booth. It's amazing. But you do wherever you want. Monday, when you come in, this needs to be read and annotated. Good? Now you can pack up.